Hello, this is teddygaming and welcome back to another very special and important video because today I'm going to be joined by someone quite special.
Hello, I'm Speaky Geeky's Mr. Geeky.
And yes, and today we're going to be doing a quite interesting video because today we're going to be ranking the top 10 TMNT figures that we want to see across and the entire iteration of TMNT.
With all the incredibly cool versions of TMNT that are coming out right now, we thought it might be a lot of fun to go into our top 10 versions of characters that we really would love to see. There are so many neat ones out there in the world of TMNT. The whole turtle verse of possibilities there, and we thought it might be neat to envision who would be our top picks to see in toy form. So join us today as we dive in to our top 10 picks for who we want to see in turtle form. And make sure to let us know in the comments below who would be your top picks as well.
If you do like this content and want to see more from this channel, please do make sure to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, comment, and all that good stuff. Now let's get on with the video.
My number 10 is Silver from the Next Mutation. I envision here. I gotta look. I chose Silver because to me that's a character that really just felt like a character. To me, that really felt like a character that fit really well in with the early animation characters. And I know that it came in the Next Mutation, which was a live action and didn't necessarily fit in perfectly with all the other iterations, but that version still had a lot of interesting characters that came out of it, and Silver was one of those characters. So in my mind, that would be done in a Fred Wolf style by NECA, but I'll say this in particular, I'd say NECA because I think that would fit in really well with those animated series figures. It just feels like he jumped right out of the he jumped right out of the animation style. But that said, he also fits in really well as a Super 7 Ultimates figure. So I could see it being done either way there. And I think that it's just kind of the day glow look of his suit, as well as like that really fun, overarching, just massive size. I think that Super 7 would do a really good job capturing that. It's kind of like a big hunk of plastic. A little background on that character, as I said, he's Next Mutation. He was a mob boss, head of a mob. Head of the mob in the Next Mutation series, and was very capable. He, like Bebop and Rocksteady, like Bebop and Rocksteady in the animated series, his henchmen were cartoonishly bad at what they did. So I think that if he had better help, here 1 second. I think if he had better team members, he probably could have stood a much better chance at, besting the Turtles. But I feel like that's a character that's kind of underutilized, and I think that he would be really fun to add to the collection. So that's my number 10.
For my number 10, I went with Warren Stone, and he's a character from the Rise of the Teenage Mutant Turtles series that he claims to be the Turtles' one true enemy, but well, clearly no, that he's not. And the reason why I did go for this character is one, because I feel like he's just one of those really fun accessory type characters that you can put in with any other character from the show. I'll more go with Hypno just because their relationship in the show, but I guess you can really put them in with anywhere. And the company that I'll go for is all two, just due to like the options that you could possibly go with this character. Now you could go with the Playmats option and really fit him in with all the other characters, as I feel like bringing a bit more consistency with the line and stuff like that. However, I would possibly go with the Super 7 line, just because you was able to give him a lot more options and accessories. Maybe giving him the cut in half look, or giving him the giant big gem look. I feel like there's so many possibilities with this character, and just one that you don't really need, but it's just a really fun accessory that you'll probably lose.
That's really fun. I mean, and I like that pick too, because to me it almost felt like, especially when you get that oversized, that was, you know, the second mutation version of Warren Stone. It reminded me, it to me felt almost like you were bringing in Earthworm Jim into the series, and it was like, yes, crossover. So my number 9 is Sally Pride, who debuted in the IDW comic series. And Sally, I feel like, would be best suited for being in as much as I would love to have kind of a classic toy look to her. I could see her fitting in really well with the IDW NECA series. They are, though it hasn't officially been announced, they're very clearly doing more IDW characters, and that they have, you know, expanded their Last Ronin line of options there. So I think that it would be a lot of fun to bring in some of those other Mutanimals that, you know, especially now that we're getting Dreadmon and Jaguar to kind of complete out the original core set with the Archie characters. To me, it's the next logical move that you'd want to expand out with the IDW Mighty Mutanimals as well. And Sally's, like, you know, to me, an incredibly fun and strong character that I would love to see more of, and I think would go really well up with the rest of my characters on the shelf. Yeah, so Sally I think would be pretty neat.
For the number 9 pick, I went with the Creep from the 2012 TMNT show, and I feel like this character is just a really interesting character that was never really utilized properly, and I feel like could possibly be a character that could almost fit into pretty much any line, as he has that look that could be cartoonish for the Fred Wolf show, or comic booky for IDW or Mirage, and just one that you more or less put into anywhere, and the reason for it is just being Turtles. But the reason why I went for this option is just because I feel like there's like a few options I would say, or reasons why. One is because I feel like there needs to be a few more big, overpowering characters to put on the shelf to really bring a bit more power and I'm not stuff like that. And then also, I also feel like another reason why, and could potentially lead open to more stranger and weirder like characters, is going to in like more a horror direction, just due to the character being a very horror specific character, and could lead open to the Chima, zombie Baxter Stockman, and just other characters like that. Now, the company which I'll possibly go for is possibly just go, and I feel like again I'll probably go Playmates just to fit him more into the line or 2012 show. But at the same time, I feel like NECA would do a really good job, as they've been shown that they can do really amazing horror and mashup figures with the TMNT and Monster Universal line, and could really bring a whole new depth to the character and overpowering other certain characters.
Oh, heck yeah. And, you know, I mean, it's also like, it's such a fun, that when I saw that for the first time in the 2012 series, it was like, it reminded me of another character too from the Mirage comics, and then I realized later on that's who it was based off was the Bloodsucker. If you remember Mirage, there was a character that was like a giant leech, and that's, but apparently they thought that was going to be too scary for the cartoon. Funny enough, because that character was horrifying. So in your mind, would you have it with like multiple heads too, so you could get the different, like the Casey Jones mask, and as well as like its sack head in.
Oh yeah, I feel like that would definitely bring a whole new playability and just a whole different like scare factor to the figure, which just works so well. And then like you could possibly even do like have options where you could like do like some of the weapons or plant or the gardening tools like sticking out of him. I feel like there's like so many options you could potentially do here. And then, even for fun accessory, have the plant wrath.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun. Uh, I dig that idea quite a bit. So my number 8 is Tyrano Shredder. In my mind, this is going to be a Super 7 TMNT Ultimates, because I think that they would do this figure just. This is one I never had as a kid. This is one I always kind of looked at longingly, and it was such a fun character. Like this is any of the dinosaur figures, not the caveman figures, because I had all of those, but the dinosaur ones where it was like Tyrano Shredder and Pteranodon. Those were always kind of my white mutant whales, as it were. Did I say males or whales? Let me try that again. I think I don't know if I said males. Those were always kind of my white mutant whales. And it's just such an imposing and fun shredder, and it reminds me a bit of the Mirage. There was a shark shredder. There's like this shark mutant. He had tentacles, and it was very massive, very fun, and just kind of would stand menacingly over the other characters. And just the idea of a shredder, which is like massively sharp teeth that complement the rest of his sharp objects coming all over his body, is really interesting and fun to me. And I think that Super 7 would knock that one out of the park. So that is originally that character came out in the Playmates line. And again, that was one of those that were not the easiest to get at the time. That was one of the later waves where, by that time that those figures were coming out, they were in pretty short supply. So that would be neat as well to kind of have that in a form that we can have, and as for all those folks who never were able to get it when we were kids.
Yeah, I'll just say, hearing that option now, I did think at first it was sort of like a made-up one. I'm not too sure, just because that one I never heard of. But then looked up and like, oh, that could honestly be a really fun option that I can almost put in with the other lines as well. It seems like one a bit obscure that you can just say Turtles for a reason for putting it in with another version of Turtles. And then for my number 8, I would have to say I want to say Cilantro. And the biggest reason for this is because for this character nearly being in the comics for nearly 40 years, give or take, this character has never had an action figure form, and that is honestly quite surprising, just due to basically every other character getting the figure with different variants, and this one has barely even gotten one. And while Renette is getting a figure later this year, may not be the correct one that we want, I do feel like it's a bit of a disjustice to not have this character in a figure form. And the version which I'll go for is the 2012 version. The reason why is just because I feel like this version you can almost fit in as in your 2012 line, but also he basically has the same design as the 2003 and the the Mirage one, where you could almost fit him into that line and it would work perfectly well. And the company that I'll go for is NECA, just because I feel like it would just be really good to see a Cilantro teamed up with a Renette. And I feel like his character is also quite big and large, just due to his what creature he's supposed to be. I feel like how tall he would be would really benefit that type of character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's interesting too that you went with the 2012. That is, I like that style a lot, and that was one that almost came out too, if you remember. They made the prototype of it, and then it's just kind of nope, never came out. But that would be pretty neat to see paired with Renette. I mean, that's I'm like, give me all the versions, right? That's in my mind. I'm like, yeah, I want the 2012 Mirage. I want 2003. I want, I mean, but that one in 2012 in particular is more, he has more stature to him. He's got like he's more imposing and is just kind of like, whereas the Mirage is he's, a bit of a smaller kind of like puck-like character, if that makes sense. Very, very much like, just he's fun in kind of like a like a more menacing kind of way, but the larger version is also kind of like there's like an actual, it feels more of a threat, if that makes sense. It was more palpable of a threat. He felt more like a monster in the 2012. Yeah. So I like that pick. That's a good pick. that would if you hadn't picked that would be my pick as well. For my number 7, I have Sarnath and Quark, who originally appeared in the Archie comic series. And there's a whole lot of background and lore that I didn't realize at the time when I was reading the comic. Just because it's like with the Eye of Sarnath, there's a big component to that kind of plays into that. I feel like had that comic run longer, there would have been a lot more entrenchment to that character, because the Eye of Sarnath, if you that's kind of the glue between a lot of the different worlds. You had that in the animated series. You had that in the video games. You had that. I mean, there's a lot of different places where the Eye of Sarnath pops back up, and that's that is Sarnath's eye. So that's a character that was also just visibly a lot of fun. He had his 4 arms, and and then in the comic he had one of his arms ripped off too, and to me that's also something that could would be swappable with the toy. I think that I also really liked Quark for the sake of the fact that he's this really cool alien looking dog, and that looked like he looked like a dinosaur. He looked like the dinosaur that had the tail that has the spiky tail, and that was always my favorite kind of. Obviously it's like I should remember the name of that kind of dinosaur. I do not, but that was always my favorite kind, type of dinosaur, because it to me reminded me of like a turtle with a spiky tail, and I was like, yeah, that's the best dinosaur. But the pairing of those two was really fun, and to me it's kind of like, of course if you were to get that character, they'd have to come as a 2-pack, because it's such a staple of who that character is. To me it's like the same thing as if you're going to get a Gizmo figure, you get Fluffy. It's just they go hand in hand, right? Or it's like the idea of pairing Ground Chuck with Dirtbag. They're just always going to be teamed up together. So I see that coming in. I mean, it's a logical move to have that come in the Archie toy line for NECA. Again, it's one of those things where if we get an Anthrax figure from eventually from Super 7 with the TMNT Ultimates, I think that buck could be repurposed nicely to do a Sarnath as well. I don't know. I haven't seen Super 7 start doing the Archie figures yet, but I don't think it's necessarily off the table, because we saw a little bit of that. We got a little bit of that with Gorilla and the TMNT magazine stuff, and we got a little bit of that with Quack Up, with the Quack Up additional head from the Ace Duck. So the possibilities there are on the table. even if we haven't seen it yet. So if they start, diving into some of those Archie characters, that could be really fun to see in that Ultimate style as well. So that is my number 7, technically 6 because of Quark, but we're cheating and say it's 1.
I'll definitely say that if I do that, if I remember this figure or the character correctly, and he was doing like the NECA format, I'll definitely like to see as tall as maybe Chrome Dome or even taller. If I'm thinking of the character correctly, hopefully I am.
Yeah, I mean he would be a big character, and he'd be a pretty decent sized character. It depends on which Chrome Dome version we're talking about, because Chrome Dome got pretty big in some of those iterations, but definitely would tower over the turtles in a way that's like, I'd say definitely bigger than like Fred Wolf Metalhead as an example.
Yeah. For my number 7 pick, I'll have to go with Starly from the TMNT Season 6 Fast Forward line. Now, while many people doesn't really like this season as much for some of the characters, I do feel as though with the amount of characters they did get from the Playmates line, it is so weird to leave this character out, considering the fact that they had in the late 2010s, they did have prototypes for Starly figure, and it's always annoyed me ever since. Just the playability option putting on a shelf with all the other characters is really annoying me all these years. And yeah, and then the company which I'll possibly go for is just Playmates. It's just because I want to put it with the other Fast Forward figures, complete my childhood dream, and yeah, that's all I really got to say about that one.
Starly's fun. That's a fun option. It caught me by surprise. Honestly, it's a fun deep dive one where it's like I watched the 2003 series. It's been many years, but that was a character who deserved some toy love. And yeah, we never had. Right? I don't think we had. Did we ever have it? We never had a Starly before, did we?
The closest we came to it was a prototype in one late 2010s, early 2010s toy fair thing, where they revealed so many other figures which were like, I'm really sure I didn't get, such as like President Bishop, Sugar Nabo, Splinter, Triple Threat, all ones which would be so amazing, and yeah, I can't complete my childhood dream.
Someday, I'm hoping. I'm really hoping we'll get some of those 2003. That's a line that just deserves more love than it's gotten as of recent years. And I think we will. I have a feeling we will. So yeah, Starly's a fun option. My number 6. Speaking of not being able to complete my childhood dreams, this is a character. My number 6 is Tora, who was from the TMNT arcade game. That was this was, I guess it's technically TMNT 2, right? This was like this also had the character Shogun in it, and we had the video game, some of the video game love in the NECA series. But these were kind of, in my mind, 2 pretty big omissions. Tora's one where, it's so toyetic. It is such a fun character where from the moment I saw it, I was like, this is a character that, of course, we're going to get this as a toy. Because it fit in with any of those Playmates characters that were already coming out at the time. But nope, it never came out. And there are a lot of fun accessories that it could come with, including just like the obvious, which was, his like giant snowball boulder that could break apart. Any of those like Frosty the Hitman is what I think they were called, whereas they look like the snowmen, and then you'd hit them a couple of times, and then they showed like their exoskeleton or the metal interior. That was like these robots that would jump around, and like that's an obvious thing as well there. If they wanted to go all out and make it kind of a, first of all, I see this as a NECA. I think NECA would, because they've done the other ones, I think that this would be really fun to see in that same kind of style. But also, I think it would be fun to maybe have one that has kind of this video game feel deco, but also one that could fit in with the Fred Wolf style as well. That would be kind of neat, because to me, like, that'd be a fun character to see in Fred Wolf style. I think that he had the spiked leather jacket, and it just really lent well to that. So I see NECA as being that, and I feel like I used to pretend that Panda Khan was Tora if I needed him to be when I was a kid, because it's the closest thing I could get. So yeah, so this would be a childhood dream made true.
I don't say, after hearing that option, I was thinking at first, like, that's sort of a bit weird one, like very deep dive into that franchise. But then I was remembering how he looked with the leather jacket, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is just an amazing, cool figure. That like leather jacket alone just screams like it's cool, especially for him.
Mm-hmm.
and then for my number 6 one, which is a bit weird option for the reason why I chose it, is the Cowabunga Corner Mikey. Now this is a gig that Mikey takes up to bring some money in for the family in the movie, and the reason why I chose this option is a bit of a weird one, and I feel like I probably went a bit too far with the reason why, but it's sort of having as like a convention exclusive, as he's not really one that you need, but I feel like he's just one that would just be so cool that if you were to have it, it would be, I'm glad I got it, but I don't really know why, but he would just be an amazing fit. And I think the company which I think will do best for this one will be Super 7, just to really bring in the 2007 TMNT Playmates toys into it, also having the movie feel. I just feel like that company in general just make this figure just perfect. And I feel like for a convention exclusive, it would just be one like a perfect one, sort of like how they did with the Batman Mikey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. They would do a great job with it. And I mean that's a really fun pick too, because it's like that giant head. It's so cartoon. It's like so cartoonishly fun, where it would look really neat on the shelf, right? It has such a unique look to it. I like it. I approve of.
Thank you. And yeah, that's our list for this video. If you want to continue this this series, then you can go over to speakygeeky and continue watching the other part, where we find out the other top 10. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today, guys. If you do like something, please share, like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Goodbye, yo. Bye.